Hi guys, so I want to give you an overview of how I use Claude Code with my programming. Um, so just to give you some context, I'm a computer programmer, um, and I've been a computer programmer for probably 20 years. And um, I want to show you, this is let me share my screen. Um, so this is the software that I'm developing at the moment. And it's accounting software, and it has this thing called a period type. Now, what I want to do is review how I was working with Claude Code a couple of days ago to add these two period types. So there were existing period types with current calendar period and previous calendar period, and I was adding these two new types. So what I would do is I would go to Claude, the Mac desktop app, and I said, okay, here's what I want. I want to add these new standard period types. And the difference is that they start on the 6th of April each year and not the 1st of April. So I'm writing in English, and Claude goes away. It has access um, to my file system, and it looks at all the files, asks me, do you want to, can you let me edit these files? I say yes. And it does a pretty good job. It comes up with these new period types. And what I normally do is I don't review the kind of report that very closely. I don't review what uh, Claude usually writes here, but instead I go to my IDE and I can do a side-by-side comparison, and I can see, okay, um, it's added this current, it's a standard period, and a previous, it's a standard period. As I requested, and it's got these helper functions. It's a standard financial year start, and it's a standard quarter end. So at this point, I could say the job is finished. Um, here's the code, and it's running fine, and it calculates the dates correctly. Um, but I'm not happy with the code base that Claude is producing, or at least I'm getting Claude to produce. Um, So one of the problems is this. Let's see one of the problems that I pointed out to Claude. I said this it's a standard financial year start. This one here is too complicated. Look, you can, and I'm saying here's the algorithm you can have is just start with current year, April 6th of the current year, and if today's date is before that start date, then just subtract 12 months from the start date. So I'm giving it the algorithm. And it does a perfect job of updating the algorithm here. Let's see that side by side. Um, so obviously, if you give it an algorithm, it'll do a pretty good implementation. This is side by side, and obviously this is much cleaner. But it's interesting that Claude, I would say, is like a junior developer. It won't necessarily come up with the ideal or the simplest solution um, without a code review. So in that sense, it's still a junior developer. So, okay, it fixes that. That's good. And I say, okay, we don't really need, so there's another problem. We've now got, it's a financial year start and it's a standard financial year start. So in the code base, we've got, it's a financial year start and it's a financial year start. So these two can be merged. The only difference is one starts on the 1st of April and the other one starts on the 6th of April. So why don't we just use them, just pass a Boolean parameter. So again, I'm kind of giving Claude the idea of the algorithm to use, and again, it comes up with a very good solution or a perfect implementation, I would say. Perfect, what a perfect junior developer would do. So if we have a look again, so I don't really look at this report that Claude generates. I just look at the side-by-side comparison in the IDE. Um, is this the one? No, no. I'm kind of a bit confused. So yeah, we've added this period, this parameter now, and we're saying, okay, add the parameter and then merge these two into one, and we're just using the parameter start. Um, Start date is the only thing that distinguishes whether it's standard or calendar. So again, we've cleaned up the code. So I'm happy with that again, but not entirely happy. If we have a look, actually what I do is I just clean up the code a tiny bit more. I say, okay, I don't think we need this extra variable. It's not doing much. So let's just put it into the expression here directly. And also let's change the calendar date, use calendar date.april constant instead of the hard-coded value or hard-coded value 4. So again, and I'm not going back to Claude. I know how to do it, so I just do it. It's no point going to Claude in that case. So, okay, I've fixed it up a little bit more, but I'm still not happy. So I'm saying, okay, it's a standard quarter end is too complicated. Whereas it's a standard quarter end. I'm looking at this code now, and I'm thinking, my God, that's complicated. I don't really understand it. But all I know is that come on, you can do it. Like there must be an easy way to do this. When I say easier for a human to understand. And so I don't really understand. I don't try and understand this too much. I just say to Claude, look, go back and redo it. You can do better. Think about the calendar date API in particular, um, which, by the way, the calendar date is uh, a kind of utility class that I've created. So anyway, it goes back and it does again, a very good job of improving the code based on my prompting, although I didn't give it an algorithm in this case, it just came up with it. So let's have a look at the change it's made. This is, again, I look at the side-by-side comparison, and this has been replaced with this, which is simply to loop over all the possible uh, quarters, the 4 quarters, and just figure out, hey, is today in that quarter? If so, we found the quarter end. So this is, I don't think I thought about the algorithm before Claude did it, but once I saw Claude doing this algorithm, it was pretty obvious. Yeah, that's correct, right? I can't understand this, but I can very easily understand that. So I'm very happy with this update. So again, I'm happy to continue, but Claude, okay, so yeah, this is good. Um, yeah, okay, so let's see what I'm asking Claude next. Change it's a quarter end to it's a standard quarter end to it's a quarter end and add financial year start date. So yeah, I'm saying that this thing here can just be a parameter. This start date has already been calculated at the function call before the function is called, so we can just pass it in. Um, Change it's a standard quarter end to it's a quarter end. So yeah, it's not necessarily the standard quarter end. It's just one of the calendar or standard end. And we pass in today, and we're now going to pass in this year start, right? And it does pretty much what I ask it to do. Um, let's have a look at that in here. So yeah, we've calculated the start, and now we're just passing it in. And here we're taking that parameter now, and we don't need to compute it again here. So that's exactly what I asked for. Okay, good. Thank you, Claude. So, oops. So I'm coming back to Claude now, and I'm saying, okay, um, now I can see another problem, which is we've cleaned up the current, it's a standard period code, but we haven't cleaned up the current, it's a calendar period code. So let's have a look at the difference there. Uh, there's the current, it's a standard period, and there's the current, it's a calendar period. And you can see that is uh, quite a bit more complicated than that. So let's clean up that at the same, just in the same way. So that's what I asked Claude to do. And again, it comes back with a good solution. And if we have a look at the solution here, the good implementation, Um, yeah, it's replacing all of these complicated lines with just this single line, bam, let's go and get the quarter end like we do for the standard period. But the interesting thing here is Claude is not so sure that that's the right solution because it says, look, um, the end of month previously, it would go to the fifth. So actually, I didn't really read this thoroughly. All I know is it's asking me a question that it's not really sure. It thinks it might have changed the behavior of the code. And so I say, look, can you elaborate a bit? And it gives me this detailed thought about whether it's really broken the code. But I've noticed that when it comes to reading this, again, I don't read it very much, but I do notice that it's saying, hang on, this is interesting. Wait, that's before today. So I'm looking at this part and I notice this is wrong. If I take the 1st of April plus 3 months minus 1 day, that's wrong. So I go back to Claude and say, hang on, you said this, and that doesn't sound right to me, and Claude says, oh yeah, you're right, I made an error. Let me fix up. And after it rethinks for a bit again, it says, oh, this code that I've written back here, yeah, that was okay. I didn't really have to question it because we're not changing the behavior of the code. Um, the cleanup is fine as is. And I said, oh, well, you have had me worried there. When we're having a little bit of a dialogue like you would with a human junior developer. So yeah, it's interesting that Claude, it's actually a good thing that a lot of human junior developers will not be confident enough to say, hang on, is this right? Well, I think maybe I've done something that's wrong. Um, and they're never, especially if they're not sure, they won't pipe up and say, "Hey, I might have made a mistake." They'll just plow on. So in that sense, Claude AI junior developer is better than a human junior developer, and even better is that they will sometimes. It's not always the case that they're wrong. Sometimes they're right. In the sense, if we go back to a previous session that I had with Claude, I had basically said, why don't we do it this way? Um, and Claude had said, no, no, that's going to give you a different result. So in here, Claude is double checking my code and saying, no, you're wrong. And it was correct to say I'm wrong because I was getting mixed up. So yeah, sometimes two eyeballs or one pair of eyeballs and one pair of virtual eyeballs is better than just a senior programmer on his own. So anyway, we've decided, okay, we're going to come back and we say, okay, where are we? We've said, okay, the code is correct. Okay, so now we're finally going to have a look. Okay, we continue on. Is the code as clean as I think it can be? I think the current, I said, I think a current it's a calendar period and current it's a standard period can just be merged with a Boolean. So again, let's see how that happened. We're getting rid of a whole bunch of code and um, yeah, this current it's a calendar period and at current it's a standard period. Let's have a look at that. Current it's a calendar period and current it's a standard period. Yeah, these are very similar. This is almost the same as this, just with this false and this true. So let's just pass that as a parameter into the function and not have duplicated code. So if we look at the output again, when I'm kind of explicit, um, Claude is pretty good at doing exactly what I wanted it to do after I've reviewed the code and decided how it should work. So yeah, it's just cleaning things up, and this looks much neater and simpler. Um, and then I'm looking at this previous it's a period. Um, and what did I do there? Yeah, okay, so it's created this, it's a previous, it's a period, but I'm not quite happy with, I'm looking at this code now, and in the session, and I'm saying, okay, actually, I think maybe I can make a small change. The name is not important, right? we can pass any name in there. Should we really be passing name or should we pass an empty string? To be honest, I don't know if I just did this change. I didn't ask Claude, but I'm not actually sure that I've improved it. It doesn't really matter whether you, the value here doesn't matter. So why did I change it? I don't know. Maybe empty string makes it clear that the name doesn't matter. Um, so anyway, that's what I did. And then finally, I'm going back to Claude and I'm saying, okay, um, let's have a look at it's a quarter end. Um, did we talk about this last one? Yeah, we talked about that one. Okay, so it's a quarter end. It's a me, Mario. It's a quarter end. So it's a quarter end is here. And again, I'm not 100% happy. I'm like 99% happy. And I'm just thinking, this expression here is a little bit, not today dot is after quarter end. Well, I know that there is an is before. So that would be, if I didn't have that negative and is after, I could just use is before. And I'm thinking, okay, let's get Claude to rewrite that. And I'm saying, okay, here's uh, use today dot is before and choose the next quarter start instead of the end of the current quarter. So again, I'm pretty much prompting, any junior developer, a good junior developer could pretty much uh, do this. And in fact, I could have done this. So we have a look at I could have done it myself, but I was asking Claude, and Claude does a very good job. Basically, we now have this today dot is before next quarter start is a tiny bit better to read than this expression here. And yeah, so I could have done that myself, but there would have been a chance that I would have screwed it up. And so it would, there's less chance of error if I ask Claude to do it and then I review Claude's code than if I just do it myself. And that's it. That session a couple of days ago took about 35 minutes in total with Claude. And like I said, I could have just immediately stopped after 5 minutes, but I was spent the extra half an hour probably just cleaning up the code like I would have done with a junior developer. Um, and I think the code base is much cleaner and easier for me to understand. The question is, is it worthwhile? Is it worth me as a human spending an extra 30 minutes? I think the answer is now, yes, it's worth it. But a year or two from now, I would expect Claude or whatever AI system will just do the right thing. Like won't probably much better than me at writing clean code. So and it probably helps that I had a lot of context knowledge. This is a code base I've been working on for a long time. But yeah, that's how I use Claude Code to help me write the code and improve the code that Claude has written. So yeah, brave new world. We'll see how it develops. Thanks for watching.